For the next half hour, I'll be reading from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. And this first article is written by Jeff Kelly. Driver of abandoned Tesla is an ex-cop. Tom George, a former police officer and elected official, is charged with abandoning a car in Niagara Square 2 weeks ago. In the vehicle, police found a loaded gun belonging to DJ Granville, the former Erie County narcotics chief. The driver charged with abandoning a Tesla in which police found a loaded gun belonging to the Erie County Sheriff's scandal-plagued former narcotics chief is himself a former cop. The driver, Thomas George, was a Town of Evans police officer for 23 years. A Republican, he also served one 4-year term on the town board from 2020 to 2023, including 9 months as acting town supervisor. His current job is Chief Operating Officer for Buffalo Biodiesel, the company that employs Granville as a security contractor. George, 60, on May 22nd, was charged with 4 traffic violations according to documents obtained by Investigative Post through a Freedom of Information request, including leaving the scene of an accident. Police sources told Investigative Post that surveillance camera video captured George exiting a restaurant on Chippewa on the evening of May 19th and driving away in a gray 2022 Tesla sedan registered to Buffalo Biodiesel. The car was assigned to DJ Granville, the former chief of narcotics for the Erie County Sheriff's Office, who retired in April and has since been working as a security contractor for the company, according to his attorney, Terry Connors. After driving away from the restaurant, George made an improper left turn from Chippewa Street onto Delaware Avenue, according to the charging documents, then failed to stay in his lane on Delaware. He rolled through the stop sign at Delaware and Niagara Square, according to the charges. Finally, he abandoned the vehicle in the street between City Hall and the Robert H. Jackson Federal Courthouse, according to Buffalo Police, who later that evening responded to a 911 call from a federal courts officer. The caller reported a white male wearing a dark blue jacket, light blue shirt, and tan pants exiting a car that had damage to the front driver's side, according to an incident report. The car was unlocked and still running when police arrived. Officers from the Accident Investigation Unit found Granville's loaded gun in the car's trunk, as well as his prescription medicine, a checkbook, a cell phone, and other belongings, including his sheriff-issued retirement badge. Police also found paperwork bearing the name of George's wife. George reached on his cell phone the day after police found and searched the vehicle, refused to comment, referring Investigative Post to a statement issued by his employer, and hung up. He did not answer a call this morning. Walking away from the car earned George the same charge to which Granville pleaded guilty last August, leaving the scene of an accident that caused property damage. Granville, in April of 2024, plowed his county-owned pickup truck into 7 parked cars on Buffalo's west side. Investigative Post nearly a year later broke the story of the late-night spree, sparking intense media coverage and a series of investigations that ended in Granville pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges and paying $75,000 restitution for damage claims paid by the county. He also served a 30-day unpaid suspension and retired in April. Several Buffalo police officers who responded to the scene, including his sister-in-law, at the time a lieutenant, were disciplined for failure to follow procedures in response to the incident, including failure to administer sobriety test. The sister-in-law, Lucia Esquilin, was demoted to detective sergeant in December. The day after George abandoned the Tesla in Niagara Square, Granville was charged at the B District Police Station with improper storage of a firearm, a misdemeanor. Granville's gun, a Glock, had a full magazine and one bullet in the chamber, according to the police report, which indicated officers found it in a bag in the car's front trunk. The charges against George are all traffic violations. He is scheduled to appear at the Buffalo Traffic Violation Agency in City Hall on June 25th at 9:30 a.m. This next article is written by J. Dale Schumacher. Buffalo Charter Commission drafting major reforms. There's plenty of work still to be done, but panel is proceeding with proposed reforms that would be subject to referendum. Chief among them are changes to how voters elect candidates for mayor, comptroller, and council. There's an old joke on Hollywood movie sets. Anything that gets messed up can be fixed in post-production with creative editing or special effects. "We'll fix it in post," a harried director may shout. On Monday, Buffalo's Charter Revision Commission, the body of lawyers and citizens drafting major changes to the city's constitution, took a page out of the Hollywood director's playbook. Some commissioners had hoped they'd spend the Monday evening meeting reviewing fully drafted language of proposed charter changes, from electoral reform to police oversight to issues affecting homeowners, and then take a vote to place the measures on voters' ballots in November. That didn't happen. Instead, the commission took a series of votes to take all of its ideas, big and small, and draft the formal language in the coming weeks. "We'll address it in drafting" became a common refrain, particularly from Commissioner member Joseph Trapp, an attorney. The commission has 3 more meetings scheduled this month to get the work done and review the draft language. That was much to the chagrin of several commissioners, including Deputy Mayor Maria White, who was appointed last month by Mayor Sean Ryan. There are some things that were presented that are in a very solid shape already and are ready to be in front of the public for discussion, White said at the meeting. And then there are other things here that are really concepts and remain just concepts without concrete language. Her concerns included the major electoral reforms the commission is considering. They involve ranked choice voting, allowing unaffiliated voters to vote in primary elections, and reducing the number of petition signatures that candidates need to run for office in the first place. Ryan and his administration are not supportive of any of those measures. I do not think that the mayor would believe that those very serious issues have had a sufficient amount of public comment, White told the Investigative Post. After more than an hour of debate about what to do, flesh out draft language at Monday's meeting or address it at subsequent meetings, Commissioner Peter Reese, an attorney, grew impatient. "Do you want to get anything done or not?" he asked fellow commissioners. "All I've heard is obstruction, and let's put roadblocks in the way of getting anything done." The commission on Monday ultimately voted to draft formal charter language and ballot proposals for the following changes to Buffalo's government. First, issuing ranked choice voting in city elections. Next, allowing unaffiliated voters to vote in party primaries, so-called semi-open primaries. Also, cutting in half the number of signatures candidates need to get onto the ballot. Next, creating a police oversight committee made up of citizens. Next, allowing financially strapped homeowners to pay property taxes in more than 2 installments each year. Next, allowing homeowners who have had their homes foreclosed to keep surplus revenue from the city's sale of their property. Next, eliminating or revamping city commissions that haven't met in years. Next, making it easier for residents to join boards and commissions and get properly trained when they're appointed. Next, giving the city comptroller more control over the annual budget. Next, solving the mayoral succession issue that left South District Council member Christopher Scanlon's seat open while he served as acting mayor. The changes would allow for the Common Council president to become acting mayor and assume the duties and pay of a duly elected mayor. The council would then appoint a new president and acting council member to fill the vacant seat. 2 more. Allowing the mayor to create ad hoc task forces to study certain issues. And finally, holding charter revision every decade. Despite consternation from White and Commissioner Novella Pendergrass, who also raised numerous concerns, a majority of commissioners voted to move each measure into the formal drafting stage. Trapp, along with Councilman Lawrence Rubin, expressed confidence that drafting would not be difficult. Both men are attorneys versed in municipal law. "We can do this in our sleep," Trapp said. "These are not complicated. This is about saving our time and moving the heck on." A time crunch for electoral reform. The Charter Commission at Monday's meeting acknowledged they're under the gun to get any electoral reforms done. In New York, all laws and charter changes that affect voting or elections must be reviewed by the state attorney general's office to ensure the measures don't disenfranchise any groups of voters. That process takes up to 60 days. The Erie County Board of Elections will begin printing ballots in mid-September ahead of the November 6th election. Rubin said that will require the commission to submit its ballot measures and charter changes to the AG by early July. The commission intends to issue final approvals on electoral reforms by its June 24th meeting. It has meetings scheduled for June 18th and June 22nd. Mayor's concern on electoral reform. In April, Ryan wrote a letter to the commission saying his administration would assist with adapting minor changes to the charter. White at the time, however, said the administration would not help with electoral reform. "Those are things that we think need much more discussion," she told Investigative Post. She's now on the commission, though she hasn't been formally sworn in and was not permitted to vote Monday. She was allowed to participate, however, and repeatedly questioned many of the commission's proposals, electoral reform in particular. She argued that the commission ought to hold public hearings in each common council district to gauge residents' interest in electoral reform. Investigative Post asked after the meeting if she'd been sent by the mayor to put the kibosh on electoral reform. "I am deeply concerned, and the mayor is deeply concerned, that it is too late in the process to have gotten a meaningful public comment on the type of language that will actually be proposed," White said. White said those reforms are merely broad concepts and that it would be premature to place any of those measures on the ballot in November. "The clock is running," she said. "The public needs to know. They deserve to know. They deserve the opportunity to see the language." You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Investigative Post on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Next article is by Adam Smith Perez. Deadly Housing, Deadbeat Landlord. Landlord Joseph Parlato has a history of housing code violations and failure to pay taxes and fees. A UB student last year died of injuries sustained in a fire at one of his properties, later deemed by inspectors not legal habitable space. Landlord Joseph Parlato owns at least 14 residential properties in Erie County, all but one in the city of Buffalo. He has failed to pay city and county taxes and user fees on nearly all of them, to the tune of $250,000. Through a real estate site called ubhousing.com, Parlato has rented unlicensed attic rooms in University Heights since 2020. Parlato's properties have been cited for more than 30 code violations. A year ago, a University of Buffalo student died as a result of a fire in one of those attic rooms, later deemed by city housing inspectors as not legal habitable space. Ramshar Brahmbhat, a 25-year-old student from India, was about to earn a master's degree in data science. He died on May 3, 2025, just weeks before his graduation. According to records, city inspectors have cited Parlato for numerous violations at 16 Merrimack Street, including for renting a non-habitable attic room and for operating a lodging house without a license. A trial is scheduled for Tuesday in housing court regarding the property. Last month, the county notified Parlato that it will foreclose on 3 of his tax-delinquent properties. Meanwhile, the city has failed to rein Parlato in, despite his owing $152,426 in property taxes and sewer bills as of June 5th. The city of Buffalo does not enforce the law. It's as simple as that, said Fred Brace, a former housing court liaison for the University District. Landlords are taking advantage of foreign students who want a roof over their head. As for the city's failure to collect money, it's a complete abdication of fiscal responsibility, Brace said. It's either stupidity or dereliction of duty. Brahmbhat's family told Investigative Post that in the aftermath of Rasham's death, Parlato avoided them and to this day has not returned a single one of their phone calls. There was no empathy from Parlato's side when we tried to reach out, said Kabir Barham, Rasham's sister. He knew that my brother was not just injured, he was dead. It appears that city officials failed to complete their investigation of the fire per documents obtained by Investigative Post. According to records from the investigation, department officials concluded that the fire at 16 Merrimack claimed 0 victims. Parlato, 83, refused to comment, saying, "I'm not well. Don't call for a few days," before he hung up on Investigative Post reporter. An incomplete investigation. According to fire department records, Ramshar's housemates called 911 about 8:30 p.m. on the night of April 29, 2025. About 10 minutes later, firefighters arrived. The fire broke out in the attic while Rasham was in the shower. When Rasham opened the bathroom door, his body was scorched by the heat, according to Brahmbhat's recording of her conversation with fire department officials and one of her brother's housemates. Flames and smoke engulfed the attic as Rasham called out for his housemates to call 911. She and the housemate said. The housemate remembers rushing upstairs to save Rasham, even though they couldn't see through the smoke, and wrapping his body in towels. An ambulance arrived shortly thereafter and took Rasham to Erie County Medical Center. The housemates grabbed their passports, permanent resident cards, and whatever they could fit in their suitcases. For a moment, two housemates, including the one that Investigative Post spoke to on condition of anonymity, stayed behind with the fire and police department to answer questions. According to Rasham's former housemate, fire officials did not provide any further details from their investigation, only saying it was an accident. Department records obtained through a Freedom of Information law request indicated that there were $75,000 in damages. Otherwise, the fire department's investigation report is mostly blank, with no case summary or further details. The report indicates there were no victims. Brombaut described her brother as awfully sarcastic young man who loved politics, horror films, and cricket. He was over 6 foot tall, which made him a peacemaker of sorts, his sister said. If two of his friends were fighting, you could see him putting himself between and separating them and talking some sense into people. We used to just grab a lot of snacks and we did movie marathons back to back. Rasham moved to the United States to study at UB in August of 2023. About a year into his studies, Rasham moved in with a group of friends at 16 Merrimack, a 3-story house off of Main Street and blocks from South Campus. Each housemate paid $500 a month for their room. No response from Parlato. Brombaut said the family met with fire officials on May 9th, but was told by officials that the property was likely not in violation. The attic, the family was told, had 2 exits. However, city inspectors had just cited 16 Merrimack on May 1, 2 days after the fire, for a dozen housing code violations, including renting out the attic room. Upon inspection after a fire, the 3rd floor has an illegal sleeping unit that must be removed, inspectors wrote. Meanwhile, Parlato was missing in action when the family reached out, Brombaut said. He never once in an entire week picked up the phone, she told the Investigative Post. My parents were really in a bad emotional state at the time. It was very emotionally exhausting for us to constantly try to reach him, so we gave up on that, honestly. Instead, the family focused on settling the legalities of Rasham's death, obtaining a death certificate and his degree, meeting with administrators at UB, organizing a funeral, and bringing his ashes home. We had to figure everything out in a different country. We had to do a different kind of funeral, which we know nothing about, Brombaut said. Before the family returned to India, they paid one final visit to 16 Merrimack on May 12th. They knew the house was in bad shape, but it didn't matter. Late that morning, with all options exhausted, the Brombauts called the police to see if they could be let into the house. Officers who arrived on the scene told the Brombauts that it wouldn't be possible. My parents still wanted whatever was left in that room, she said. All we wanted was some stuff. We had faith that what they were saying was true, that we did not have anything to worry about the terms of illegal construction. Parlato Properties. In addition to the code violations at 16 Merrimack, records show that Parlato has active violations for renting out an unlicensed attic apartment next door at 18 Merrimack and 53 Englewood Avenue, and refused entry to inspectors shortly after the day of the fire last May. Parlato's problems extend beyond code violations. As of June 5th, public records show he owes $152,426 in city taxes and sewer bills, $77,844 in county taxes, $18,013 in city garbage fees. According to records, Parlato owns at least 13 properties in the city of Buffalo, 5 of them are located in Elmwood Village and Allentown. The rest are located on the west side and University Heights. One residential property is located in the town of Aurora. A county spokesperson confirmed that Parlato has been sent foreclosure notices for delinquent tax liens on 3 properties: 32 Barker Street in Elmwood Village, 3214 Main Street in University Heights, and 2029 Boyce Road in the town of Aurora. Parlato's unpaid tax, sewer bills, and garbage user fees include the following addresses: 16 Merrimack, 18 Merrimack, 138 Elmwood Avenue, 33 Shenango Street, 37 Shenango Street, 585 West Ferry Street, 32 Barker Street, 73 Bryant Street, 228 Linwood Avenue, 232 Linwood Avenue, 15 Freeman Street, 3414 Main Street, 3214 Main, 3218 Main Street, 53 Englewood Avenue, 57 Englewood Avenue, and 2029 Boyce Road, town of Aurora. Parlato's property manager, James Andalora, told an Investigative Post reporter that the incident at 16 Merrimack and Parlato's debts were none of your business. Permits and Inspections Commissioner Louis Petrucci declined to comment, saying that the fire occurred before his tenure. On Tuesday, Parlato will face Judge Dabney in housing court for violations related to 16 city inspections have cited, and DeLauro for failing to obtain a property manager license. He described the fatal fire as a horrible moment, but he said neither he nor Parlato bear responsibility for Rasham's death. Andaloro also denied any wrongdoing in renting the attic room, despite city inspectors issuing violations. Andaloro said neither he nor Parlato have an obligation to communicate with Rasham's family. The owner didn't have a contract with the family. He did with Ramshah, Andaloro said. I don't owe anybody anything. Brombat said the grief of losing her brother has been hard to put into words. Losing a sibling is not something a lot of people pay attention to, she said. It's kind of like losing a bit of your past and your future. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Investigative Post. We read from the Investigative Post on Thursdays at 8:30 a.m. Your reader has been Margaret Mack. Thank you for listening.
Good morning. Welcome to another broadcast day on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, a private not-for-profit organization. Radio Reading volunteers broadcast daily readings of newspapers, magazines, and books to area blind and print handicapped persons who are provided reading radios. We broadcast on the subcarrier signal of WNED-FM Radio Buffalo, and that's provided without charge by the Western Europe Public Broadcasting Association. Our phone number here is area code 716-821-5555. And please stay with us. Our Random Buffalo News is coming up in just a moment.
The following program is intended for